The relationship between directors and cinematographers is one of the most important relationships in film. They shape the visual image, they create the film language, and it's really important that they have a really good and solid working relationship together. In this two-part series, we're gonna really look at how some filmmakers work. In part one of the series, we're gonna look at how directors work with their cinematographers, and we're gonna specifically speak with my business partner, Naz Red, about the making of his film, Debbie and the Devil, and working with cinematographer Lucas Patassi. Also gonna speak with a friend of Wild 7 Studios, Carolina Alvarez, about the making of her film, Sync, and working with her cinematographer. We're gonna go into the process, their choice of color, lighting, mood boards, all that good stuff. So stay tuned. So I sat down with Naz and Carolina here in the studio. It was kind of just an informal little chat. I told them it's not gonna be anything too crazy. We're gonna just talk about the making of their films. I wanted to make this series to kind of just show people what it's like to work with a cinematographer. I think for a lot of young filmmakers, it's kind of something that takes a little bit of a developing and learning. Early on, I used to butt heads with my cinematographers a little too much. I wanted a little too much control over the images and I didn't trust them enough. And that was on me, you know, that's an ego thing. That's something you learn and kind of have to grow out of. I also shoot some of my own stuff. So for those of you gonna watch part 2 of this, that's what that's gonna actually be about. Part 2 is gonna be about cinematographers who shoot their own work. But specifically, we're talking about directors here, and Naz and Carolina are both writers, directors, and actors. So they have a very unique relationship with their cinematographers, and we're gonna go into that today. So stay tuned and check out this fun interview. Thank you again, Naz and Carolina, for sitting down and joining us. We really appreciate you guys. And again, one last time, hit that subscribe button below. We're gonna have part 2 to this series coming out next week with 2 cinematographers / directors. These are both, they're directors who shoot. So that's gonna be next week's video, but make sure to subscribe down below.
So my name is Carolina Alvarez. I'm a writer, director, producer, and actor of Filmmakers Productions. It's a production company I started back in 2018. And I say that for perspective, right? You know, doing a feature takes a really long time. And I started writing Sync in 2020 during the pandemic. So Sync is a grounded sci-fi feature centered around toxic female friendships. So the premise is in the near future, 2 women decide to move in together and sync up via a new communications app called Sync, which allows individuals to sync minds in order to communicate and foster closer, deeper connections. We see where this is going. And so Isla, she syncs up with Devin and quickly realizes that she could be syncing with a narcissist, and so she has 72 hours to stop the sync before she is mentally dominated.
Wow, that's a great pitch.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
And who shot this film for you?
DP, cinematographer David Lee.
My name is Naz Red, aka Mr. Red, and I made Debbie and the Devil, and I make films and cartoons and things of that nature. Debbie and the Devil is 3 separate stories that are actually linked, and it is about, at heart, a young girl's transformation from regular person to cold-hearted killer, and then somebody who has kind of learned something in the experience. Debbie and the Devil was shot by one Lucas Patassi, a very talented fellow and an amazing cinematographer.
I was helping producing and creative directing a brand shoot. It was a fitness brand. And David, honestly, he wasn't even DPing that set. He was, I think, ACing. And shout out to Luke DeJores. I might be saying his name wrong, but he was DPing that set. But towards the end of the shoot, I just kept noticing David. He was always really great, hype energy. I'm a hype woman for all my actors and team members. So to me, that's a very attractive quality when I'm looking to hire someone on my set, whether you're crew or cast, like especially crew. Like we gotta hype each other up. We're gonna be in the trenches. So with David, he just kept giving me that energy, especially working with all this different talent. And at the end of the set, he just turned to me and introduced himself formally, said he's a DP and, you know, keep him in mind for anything. And I was like, amazing, we exchanged our contact. And I had actually already had a DP onboarded for the feature, but last minute I just felt like he wasn't quite the right fit, and some scheduling stuff, and I immediately thought of David because, again, like when the other key thing that I would like to highlight is staying in touch on social media is kind of a big deal. I know it's hard. It can feel exhausting to be online all the time. I get it, but I can't tell you how important those connections are. And when you're constantly liking, supporting in the DMs, like, to me, especially, that doesn't go unnoticed. Maybe for other people, it can kind of pass them by. But for me, I really pay attention to that. Because, again, those are the people that are going to champion your project the entire time, you know? And I loved that he was always just kind of top of mind. So I immediately hit him up, and he sent me his materials right away. Said he was down. I looked at his reel. He had already done some impressive short films. And he was down, I was down, and that was kind of how it all came to be.
You know, the way I linked up with Lucas Patasi was kind of this daisy chain of people that I can link back to my first short film that I shot when I was 23 called Jane. No, I was 20. I was in my early 20s. I don't even remember. It was a very long time ago. And I met a fellow named Aaron Godfred who produced that short film. And then through Aaron, from working on his feature film, I met Rick Darge. And then from meeting Rick Darge and we becoming homies and stuff, I met Jesse. And then through Jesse, I met Lucas Patasi. And Lucas Patasi had shot stuff for Jesse. And Jesse is a great guy. And, you know, just everybody in that daisy chain is a great person. And it just goes to show you that, like, just make that first thing, and it will lead to what I call the daisy chain of people that will lead you to your best collaborators.
So we had 6 months of pre-production for the feature, and it was intense shot list parties is what I call them, where you're like 4 to 5 hours every time we had one of these shot list parties over the course of the 6 months. And it's just breaking down. My script was 84 pages. So that was just breaking down every decision I had preliminarily made. So with David, we would kind of go through what the shots I had listed, and then we would talk about kind of the movement. And then at the end, towards when we finally got to do a tech scout, he was able to create all the lighting like plans as well. And that kind of helped me understand what his lighting vision. But, you know, it's also just going back to the basics of mood boarding. Working with a shot deck is a great resource to finding all the frames, to finding the right color. I mean, David nailed the color of this film because my day scenes were very desaturated, ex machina kind of tone, and I wanted then the night scenes to be completely different, very vibrant, saturated in color, and like
You
Neon
guys use
Demon.
A lot of blues and purples at night. Especially.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then we even have our kind of Black Void locations. We had 3 kind of main locations, I guess you could say. It's the apartment was the main scene, downtown exteriors, and then the Black Void in a studio that we had to entirely like black out to get the under the skin kind of look when we're going into the dream world. And that was also challenging, you know, to get the right purple skin tone. It was like the main color in that scene, those scenes were purple. And so it's like, how much purple do you put in? Like, what other light do you get? So you're not just like, what did I call it? Like a purple thumb, like, you know? So he really, a lot of reference shots, a lot of talking through how the color needed to kind of land. And then tech scouts are always like the game changer. And I think if we even had more time in a location doing a test shoot, I think we could have even planned better for it. Because I will say, now having done my first feature and experiencing all of that, like, oh my gosh, we had to redo like my entire shot list like every single day. Because now working in this space, you're like, oh, this doesn't make sense. Like, this is too repetitive. We can just punch in here. You know, things like the workflow of that, understanding how many shots setups you needed in a scene. You really need to simplify it if you're working under a tight schedule.
Do you know roughly about how many pages you guys shot per day?
Yeah, we shot about 6 to 10 pages a day, which is insane.
Yeah, that's a lot.
You usually want to do like 4 to 6. But I was very well rehearsed with my actor, and because I also starred in it. And we would rehearse it like a play, and really know our blocking and our dialogue. So we could get through 6 pages in at one take, and be really solid. But yeah, it was very challenging.
The way we collaborated was very interesting because for both of us, it was our first feature film. In the process of us making the film, Lucas actually got hired on to work on Lloyd Kaufman's last film, Shakespeare's Shitstorm. And he got that just from shooting, and it's such a weird history, but I'll take you through it. We had to shoot Debbie piece by piece. So knowing that, it did afford us some time to really get into the visual look of the film. One of the things that Lucas would always ask me, which was a question where it was like when he would ask me, I'd be like, I don't know. But when he would ask me, I would think about it. He would be like, what could we visually use to tell this story? So in doing that, it was a meticulous process because Lucas is very detail oriented. So we would make shot lists, we would storyboard. Before I met Lucas, storyboarding was a big thing for me because it would allow me to visualize the whole piece. After meeting Lucas, I realized it's very important to shot list, very important to storyboard. I always instinctually knew that, but meeting Lucas and working with him allowed me to crystallize that lesson because you don't want to go in blind, as Lucas would say. One of the things that he would repeat over and over when we would shot list is like, I'm not going in blind, I'm not going in blind. And the thing is, you cannot waste people's time on the day of the shoot figuring out what you're going to do. There are lots of people that improv and stuff, and the thing is, once you get your team well oiled, you can kind of improv, but it's like being prepared is the best thing. So it was just uber preparation, shot lists, storyboards, and then just that annoying question at the time, but a question that I super appreciate now, which is, what can we visually add to this frame that can tell the story?
Interesting. So was that something that Lucas would bring up a lot while you would storyboard?
Lucas would bring up that question over and over again, and I would, I don't know, dude. I don't know. What do you mean by that? But the thing is, it does make you think. It's like, for instance, there's a frame in Gore Garage, let's say, and you've got these boys, and they're the characters in Gore Garage, they're these teenage virgin boys that are very vulgar and very problematic or whatever, but they're lovable in their own way. And they have a space. They live in this garage. They spend most of their activities in this garage. So it's like you have the frame, you have the actor, you have the space, but what in the space can convey that these are stoner boys, that these are virgins, that these are all of these character-based questions. So what do? You add a poster with an anime girl. You add a bong in the corner of the frame. You add a little bag of weed and stuff. So that's how you're telling the story visually. And it's super annoying when you're asked that, but then it does make you work it out in your brain. And if anything, filmmaking is just a constant mental workout.
So you talk about shooting, and you guys are shooting a lot per day.
Yeah.
How did David's crews, what did they look like? Did he have like a large crew or a small crew? How did you guys manage to do that? What was like the planning looking like for shooting to manage 6 pages, 10 pages a day?
Yeah.
It was a lot.
He brought on his boys that he trusted, and I let him do that. So yeah, we had the key grip, gaffer, AC. That was the main group that kind of helped us move very quickly. And I think because they have that already workflow relationship already built in, it was very easy for them to kind of maneuver and get things done quickly. So I think if if you're working with a DP who kind of already has a team, it's really valuable. Of course, as a director, I want to vet out everybody, but at the end of the day, I want you to feel like you can man your crew and have confidence to work quickly, than having to maybe teach someone new. Like, it's something you want to think about as a director when you're hiring people, for sure. And what the DP can bring, and do they have any kind of like lighting that they can bring to equipment? Like David had a lot, and that was so helpful too.
How much freedom did Lucas have? That's an interesting question, because when we first shot, we had the most amount of money. To sort of put it into perspective, we had the most amount of money because I got a bunch of money from doing commercials, which is a whole nother story. That's the financing of Debbie and the Devil. We're talking about the visuals. But because we had a good budget when we first started, we were able to use, for instance, a Movitech. So our shots were able to be very flowy, very Kubrickian, very nice, very beautiful. So Lucas didn't have that much freedom because we were very constricted to our shot list. We wanted to make this the most beautiful, gorgeous portion of the film. Where Lucas got more freedom and where we created this thing we called jazz was the second segment, which was actually the first segment of the film, but it was the second segment that we shot called Gore Garage 6. And basically we did this thing, we would call it jazz, where I would have the actors perform the scene. And I would tell Lucas, just get in there handheld and just find whatever is visually compelling to you in the moment. That's jazz. And in that sense, you are giving your cinematographer a lot of freedom because you're basically saying, I trust you to find what is nutritious visually in the scene. And he did that, and Lucas is a master, and he's really good at it. And so he killed it. And so that was what we did in terms of like him having a lot of freedom and stuff like that.
Man, no, it was definitely, what I really value about David is it was always he always proposed the question back to me, what do you want? Is this what you want? And I could not, as a first time woman director in the seat, it was just such a grounding and definitely championing me in this role and title, respecting me. And so I will say, like, that was one of the best experiences I had working with someone like David, is that he never just like took over and decided. Not that anyone, like, again, you were saying some directors need that help or that assistance, and I think it's sometimes helpful, right, when someone could come in. But he and I, if we had to change, we would always go with the shot list I made. But when we noticed, oh, you know what, I'm not sure this is necessary, I would probably pick up on that. But he would even double check with me. He'd be like, hey, Carolina, like, I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm noticing X, Y, Z. Like, do you think this is the best choice? Because we could probably do this, save time here. And that's how we would like be able to quickly work around something. I will say framing up, since it was my first time, I think he definitely, like, he knew what I was going for, as in like how wide I wanted the shot and what was the emotion. He'd always be like, what are we trying to feel from this scene and this shot even? And so we have those long discussions. So he would know how to kind of frame up to get what I was looking for. And sometimes I'd be like, hey, can we go tighter? Like whatever to get what we were looking for. But no, it was definitely my directing vision, but he just knew how to like frame things probably much more beautifully than I could imagine at that point. So he definitely had his capabilities, and I allowed him to kind of shine in that way. But yeah, like I was saying, it was being in a space that you didn't really get to test shoot in. There were so many shots I was cutting. Like the day I would be on set after shooting, taking a look at the next day's shot list and being like, all right, guys, I'll have revisions with my AD, like, the next morning. I'll put in the revisions. David would review them. She would review them. They'd come back to me. Meanwhile, I'm in like hair and makeup because I'm also acting in this and trying to remember my lines. And you're like, okay, I don't recommend this, but I think I'm just really grateful that we always would check in. AD, director, assistant director, we'd all just quickly game plan, so there were no time that was wasted. And that's how we did like 11 pages. We had an 11-day shoot for this and worked through 6 to 10 pages a day. Yeah. It's a beast. And like, again, I wish I was better. I don't know. Again, it was my first feature, but I now know, I'm like, okay, how can we be more efficient in our shots? And, tip I learned is just like always starting on the wides and then kind of moving in. And so like, these are things you kind of learn how to like save yourself so you're not doing the most. And don't forget about those inserts.
The best advice I can give you is find your community. I repeat, because I kind of looked off into space because I was thinking about my own community. The best advice I can give you is to find your community. Trust me when I say you will be unstoppable. Find your people. If it starts with your producer, find your producer. I know a lot of people think a producer is a magical thing that'll make things good. In a lot of ways it is. But in this business, in this art, in this craft, you have to work the hardest for yourself. So don't expect anybody to come and make you not work. You have to keep working. You have to be at the front of this, pulling the thing along so people know how to march. You don't expect anybody to just come out of the sky and just make everything better. This is hard work, but it's really worth it. Find your community. You will be unstoppable. There's a great analogy. I've seen it in, I believe, the Akira Kurosawa film, Ron. It was also in The Straight Story by David Lynch, where the analogy of the arrows. You take one arrow, you break it, you snap it, it'll break. You take a bundle of arrows, it cannot break. So find your community. If you are a kid, let's say in Chicago, and you want to make a movie and you got a couple homies and stuff and you got a camera on your phone, which everybody has, boom, you'll be unstoppable. If you have a team, you cannot go about this art and craft and business as a lone wolf. You have to be with your community. You have to build your community. And that's part of the fun. So that's the advice that I give you. Build your team.
I think making it, doing it low budget, you're already like on the right path. Just like, I think a lot of people hold out because they want a certain number, like budget number, and they just feel like they're not ready for it. I mean, I was just telling you, like, I had only done a few mobile shorts besides this crazy Western proof of concept where I did shoot on a red on horseback, and it was a whole thing. But other than that, I was very, very tiny. I taught myself editing. I taught myself all these other skills. But I think a lot of people could judge me and say, and now you're ready for a feature. And I think you just know you got to trust yourself. So number one, trust yourself. You've greenlit yourself. You need to trust that you're ready for this and know that you're capable to handle problems, and you have a team that will help you handle problems, because that's producing, is handling problems. And I think a director who can learn producing is going to be a way stronger, what's the right word? I think just having any awareness of producing is going to set you up for success, because if you're asking for a crazy crane now and this and that, you're already causing issues for your team, So like, be working with your producers. Have a producer that you guys can have lengthy conversations, because a producer should say, okay, great, I love this idea for us. Here's how it's going to be if we do it on this budget, and here's how we're going to be on your budget. Which one do you want,
That's a great piece of advice, because a lot of times filmmakers don't necessarily think about how those dollars translate to the screen.
Yeah.
And it's something we should really think about as like filmmakers, like, well, where do you spend the money, where do you not spend the money? Because you don't want to spend it all in one shot or one
Exactly.
scene.
It's like, do you want a movie or do you want one shot?
That's a great piece of advice.
Yeah, I think I've taken that too throughout now my next projects moving forward, shooting on film, which producers will light up and be like, that's so expensive. And it's like, no, it's actually not. You just need to know how to budget your time and everything else efficiently. So learn some producing skills. Work with your producers, because I always think like a producer first. And that doesn't mean I suffer creatively. I'm just like, I want to get something made. And that should be your goal at the end of the day. Have something that you get made. It might not be perfect, but perfect doesn't exist.
What's next is we are making the slasher, the ultimate slasher film. You know, Debbie and the Devil is a great film. We love it. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. It's great. It's also on Tubi. It's amazing. We love it. It's our baby. But it's a nasty little indie horror film and stuff like that. And with the slasher, we want to paint on a larger canvas. Also, what is next is we are doing the Showdown in Hell. It's just a general IP about the masked wrestler turned giant red wolf named Lobo Rojo. And then also we have a cartoon that's just out that you can watch called Turbo Hyper Commandos. And also there is just so much. I mean, you know, and I'm producing a number of films, and it's just a lot of stuff that's just in the pipeline that, you know, like that Wild 7 is a beast that will never stop. And, but that's the thing. Just keep up with the fun. Join the circus. It's fun. Yay.
Awesome. And where can people catch Debbie right now?
Debbie and the Devil right now is on YouTube. It is also on Tubi. It is also on a number of other streaming platforms, and the people seem to enjoy it. It's fun.
Can they buy it on Blu-ray?
Debbie and the Devil is also available to own on Blu-ray. You know, we extol the glory of physical media. We have a record player here. We have a Blu-ray collection. We even have a VHS collection. Hell, I even have a 16mm print of a Tom and Jerry cartoon. So, I mean, collect physical media. Also, you know, we got a lot of stuff on our Wild 7 store, so give us a poke at our store and go shopping. Just shop, buy stuff. Sorry.
Awesome. Thank you so much for speaking with us today, Mr. Red.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. Good stuff. Make your movie. Make your damn movie.
So I decided now to do a new, exciting, hard thing called shooting on film. And I had already started conceptualizing my sophomore feature, and I've just always been drawn to the film look, the film style, and that visual language. It doesn't quite translate well from my sci-fi feature that I just made. So which fun fact, I based a lot of shots from Black Swan, which then I learned was shot on 16mm. So I think it's just inherently, like, I love the look of it, and I've always wanted to capture that, but I've not done it before. So I'm now shooting a short film to capture the same visual language and style that I want for my second feature, but in a smaller, contained environment. So we're doing a short. It's called Morning Shed. It's a body horror, a very pink feminine body horror, like The Substance, where a woman ends up trying a new Korean skincare product and ends up tearing off her face in the process. So it's about beauty, consumerism, all the pressures we still feel that haven't gone away from, you know, the 50s and 60s. We've been doing crazy shit. I don't know if I can swear. We've been doing crazy things for a while now to ourselves, and I thought film also kind of creates that time capsule for us and like how we are kind of stuck in time. So I'm excited to really, explore shooting on film next.
Very cool. And where can everyone find Sync?
Well, I have some exciting news. We have this past year received our domestic distribution with Buffalo 8. Yeah. And we have a digital premiere date, March 6th. You'll be able to rent, buy it, digital on demand, Amazon Prime, and other places that you enjoy renting and buying film.
We'll have the link in the bio or in the comments below. So
yes.
Go down to the descriptions. We'll have a link for it down in the descriptions once it comes out.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, March 6th. Keep that in mind. And Fandango at Home pre-sales starting February 20th.
So February 20th, March 6th.
Yes.
Okay, those are the dates. We'll put them big on screen.
Oh, thank you, fam. I love this conversation. This was really fun to have. And I think the relationship between director and DP, like, that's your right-hand guy, gal that you need by your side. So it's a very important relationship, and I'm so glad that we could chat about it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carolina.
No, thank you.
So as you can see, the relationship between cinematographers and directors is really important. You almost can't make a film without him. There's very few people who can do both, and it's very, very rare. I would never suggest you do both. If you're a director, find a cinematographer. Make that relationship with them and build that relationship with them. Watch films, talk about what you like in terms of images, talk about colors, talk about color theory, talk about textures, talk about it all. You know, it's a communications game. So meet that cinematographer and just start talking and building up that repertoire, that language. Figure out what works for you guys. So with the Wild 7 Backlot, I am Chris. Thank you again for watching this special. Subscribe down below and don't miss part 2. That's going to be coming out soon. Part 2 of this special is going to be on directors who shoot their own films. So stay tuned. That one's going to be really exciting. See you next time.